Welcome back to an Unearthly Podcast.
Homo sapiens. An immensely invincible species.
That is enterprise.
Miss Lavinia Smith,
Dr. John Smith. How do you do, Miss Smith?
This is where your story ends.
Okay.
Welcome. Hold on. Are we still talking about Daleks? Seriously? Haven't we been through like every single one of these there is apart from Big Finish? Did Moffat specifically write this episode just to troll me?
Probably.
This is episode 124 and the premiere of season 5 of an Unearthly Podcast. Streaming live on the 23rd of September 2015 and featuring The Magician's Apprentice by Stephen Moffat. I am Bill Sylvia, the Man in Black, and with me are Mad Matt Winchell,
Exterminate!
Randy Ronson McCulloch,
Oh, it's a pleasure.
Aaron Romeo Moon Burke,
It's here!
and Tim the Enchanter Sheridan.
Hey yo!
Holy
Am I like
crap,
the
we
only
have a
one
lot
that-
of news tonight.
Am I like the only one that never changes my opening response?
As far as I'm aware.
Yes.
Well, I base mine on Dr. Yukio Tori. So,
I just base
Yeah,
my,
you
my
know-
mood,
You
so.
are.
I just go with the moment, man.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah,
I
okay.
I think Matt used to do the same every time until Aaron became an influence.
You're a bad influence, Aaron.
I think actually it was not so much her influence as much as I had a really good day or a really bad day or something and just like, So
great.
that kind
So
of changed my
you
opening.
channeled Animal one day.
Given that he's my favorite Muppet, somehow that doesn't surprise me.
Oh, I'll admit, I'm very much fond of the Electric Mayhem.
So
Well,
as I
let's
was
get on-
saying, we have a crap ton of news today.
Yeah, but we're not
getting
doing
to
we're not
Buffs.
doing reviews at the end of the episode this time too. So that's a plus.
A little bit of leeway.
Yes,
Little bit.
as we did with the season finale for Series 8 with, what was it?
Dark
Dark
Water
Water,
and Death in
Death
Heaven.
Yeah, Death in Heaven. We are not going to do a review until next episode when we do The Witch is Familiar.
Or at least
Because
we'll have,
we
the
j-
final
we
thoughts
just-
and this part of the review.
Yeah, we'll do up to final thoughts, but we're not going to do our review because we just don't feel right doing a story half completed.
Yeah.
It kind of it annoys us, and I know there's people out there that do it. It just isn't for us.
Yeah, we'll be sitting
I'm
there the
fine with
entire
it.
time during ending comments going, it's not done yet. That's frustrating me right now. I was like, it's not done yet. I need to wait until it's done yet.
Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
problem. I look at this episode, and I'm either going to be pleased as punch, or I'm going to be absolutely, vile spewing anger next week.
It's like-
and I
it's
don't
like
know
giving-
which I am.
It's like
Yes.
giving Legopolis a rating after episode 2.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
the
Yeah.
reason that there were no reviews of The Phantom Menace because they wanted to wait until Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith came out first.
Nah, Phantom Menace can stand on its own. Probably people weren't giving it reviews because they couldn't believe what they saw.
They might have
no,
fallen asleep halfway through the movie when NASCAR started playing.
You know, if you want to use that analogy, it would be like reviewing the original Star Wars movie, but stopping right at the point where the Millennium Falcon got tractored into the Death Star. And then trying to base a review off that. So let's go ahead and start with the news. And we're going to start with some birthdays, because we got a trio of Doctor Who birthdays.
Oh, yeah.
The first one is Carolyn John, who would have been 70 on Saturday, the actual day that Doctor Who was released. But unfortunately, she passed away in 2012, and of course then is not available. She was known to play Liz Shaw for one season at the beginning of the third Doctor's run, and came back for the Five Doctors special in 1983.
75, I think it would have been. You said 70.
Yeah, sorry, 75. That would be my bad, on the 19th. Also, a happy birthday to Fraser Hines, who turned 71 on the 22nd of September. Fraser Hines, of course, is known for playing Jamie McCrimmon in the majority of the second Doctor's run, as well as in the Five Doctors special and the Two Doctors special. And he's still known to make stuff for Doctor Who, for Big Finish, to present day.
Both as Jamie and the second Doctor.
Yes. Yep. He's a very talented man.
If anyone knows the second Doctor who's still alive,
don't let him sing.
I've heard his singing career. That the songs he made back in the 60s, they're not great songs.
Well, that's also the 60s.
He might be better. He might be better now.
You never know, yeah.
Yeah, I guess it was more content and not his actual singing, but he wasn't really what I would have thought of as remarkable as a singer.
Mm.
Also, a happy birthday to Billie Piper, who turned 33 yesterday, same as Fraser Hines. Billie Piper is, of course, known as playing Rose Tyler for Series 1 and Series 2 of New Who, and at various portions throughout Series 3 and Series 4.
And 7.
And 7.
And 7, yes, for the 50th anniversary special. Happy birthday to her.
Happy birthday!
And, fortunately, there are no deaths.
Thank goodness.
Which is, we gave them 2 weeks and they couldn't come up with one, so hey.
That's fine by me.
Yay, no deaths.
Yay, no depression pills.
Hey.
And on to the Witch's Familiar news. On the evening, as far as we're concerned, it's less than 3 days anyway, of the Witch's Familiar, we begin our coverage with the BBC released photo gallery for the episode. We can expect to see these every week going forward, though those who've seen The Magician's Apprentice might find something strange here, but we're going to let you figure that out on your own, as we're not discussing spoilers until the summary. In the same article, we see the broadcast times, which are probably pretty close to what we're going to see for the rest of the autumn, depending on how strictly Britain comes dancing, depending on how that runs. Here we see that the episode will air at 7:45 p.m. on Saturday in the UK, and at 9 p.m. Eastern on Saturday on both BBC America and Space. The BBC have also revealed a clip from The Witch's Familiar. There's not at all that much to say about it, other than that it probably sheds some light on the cliffhanger at the end of The Magician's Apprentice.
Yeah, it really doesn't tell us anything particularly revealing. I watched it earlier and I'm just like, okay, not really anything. It's just the Doctor and spoiler.
One thing that I found interesting about the broadcast times there was that apparently BBC Two is airing a British Sign Language version of the episode the following week. And Ryan and I kind of agreed that it would just make more sense to put subtitles.
There's this wonderful device called closed captioning. It is a device that actually runs, even though neither one of us are deaf, although Aaron sometimes wonders about me, that we run in our house all the time, simply because, sometimes we're doing something or listening to something else and just want to pay attention to what's being said.
Yeah.
And so I really do not see the portion, because the only way you can have a sign language version is if you have basically a circle in like the lower left or lower right hand corner with a person doing the sign language.
And
Well-
when people complain that subtitles distract their eyes, I can imagine that sign language dialogue is going to be that much more distracting because it needs that much more attention from your eyes.
Yeah, that person's gonna be flailing just to keep up.
Well,
And
it's for the people who are deaf and illiterate.
Oy.
So people that don't know how to read only know how to speak sign language?
Well,
That's,
for those people who can't hear or read.
Yeah, but yet you still have to know sign language.
Yes, so the people who know sign language can't read and are deaf. I'm sure at least one person on the planet fits that description.
I don't know.
I don't know either, because because learning sign language is really hard if you don't know how to read a freaking book.
Yeah, sign language tends to borrow a lot from the actual alphabet, from what I recall.
It does, and you have to learn what the words say.
Yeah.
And if you don't have a translation medium for the first place, it's like those old specials they got about teaching Helen Keller, who was both blind and deaf. So, but that's about the only way you could do it, because you can't just put them down and say, "Here, this is A." You would have to pretty much write it on their skin.
Yeah. Oh well.
So I honestly don't think it would be worth having a specific broadcast for it. Also, on that article, the pictures really don't show anything in particular new. Just a lot of stuff that we knew what was there. Daleks and more Daleks. And there's
One
the
of the
Doctor
things in those photos we were supposed to believe was no longer there, which
But we knew
those who
otherwise
watched the
anyway.
episode know. But yeah, those of us with common sense already knew that part anyway.
Yep, we figured that one out. Okay, so moving on.
The
Tim, I
Magician's
believe you're up.
Apprentice news is up. I'm up. As is tradition for an Unearthly podcast during the season, we start with ratings for the latest episode. In overnight ratings, unofficial figures for the BBC report 4.58 million viewers for Magician's Apprentice, down from Peter Capaldi's premiere episode Deep Breath at 6.8 million. This figure currently includes only those who watched the episode in its very first showing on BBC One, and not iPlayer or DVR. An additional 1.1 million viewers watched the episode on Sunday.
I had predicted that the viewing numbers would be down this year, and it looks like I am correct. This is because there's nothing special about this year. Last year, of course, we had a new Doctor, which brought in viewers, and the year before that, it was the 50th anniversary, which brought in viewers. But there's nothing special this year. I mean, there was the 10th anniversary of New Who, but they kind of glossed over that.
Yeah, they didn't really do a special for that.
So it's just another season. So it's pretty much down to what's considered normal numbers.
But still respectable, I think.
Yeah, I'm not saying that it's unusual. I'm just saying that downtrend was expected by me.
I did see one article basically complaining about the fact that it's a family show and more people that they should be making more people interested in watching it on the first release rather than the second and third and DVR and whatever. And
People have busy lives. They can't sit here and watch a show every given first chance
and I mean,
they got.
Other than the fact that I agree that Strictly Come Dancing makes it difficult if you live in the UK to figure out when Doctor Who is going to be on, I pretty much stopped reading that article halfway through because it was just politics.
Also, the fact it's Saturday night. I mean, if
when
there's
people
a
are usually
night,
the busiest.
yeah, if you're going to do something outside of the home, it is usually going to be Friday or Saturday night.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it says it
Sunday
was
morning.
the highest rated show on BBC One for the day, just above Casualty.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying, don't expect it to be as big as it is on a year that you've got something really new and interesting, like a new Doctor or a anniversary.
Oh, going on. Australia's 5 major cities report approximately 653,000 viewers, not including regional or time-shifted viewers. This puts Doctor Who at the highest-rated drama on ABC. For those of you who don't know, I'm talking about the Australian Broadcasting Company, not the American Broadcasting Company. ABC for the day, and the 8th highest overall rated program.
I think that's more or less where it was last year, wasn't it, Bill?
Pretty close to it. I don't remember exactly, but it was pretty close to that.
I think it
Just
might have
about as I
spiked over
recall.
700,000 for the premiere last year, but yeah, it was hitting regularly in the 500 to 600,000s last year.
I do remember that the 1 to 3 top drama and the 8-ish highest overall for the day is pretty much where it normally was most of the season.
By the way, Bill, when you write scripts and you want to mention the Australian Broadcasting Company, they usually refer to themselves as the ABC, much like BBC refers to themselves as the BBC.
Gotcha.
So I take it in Australia, viewerships in the 100,000s is considered big?
Because you're only taking the major cities.
Right.
You got to remember that while the major cities in Australia are pretty up to date, once you get out into rural Australia, it's like going back about 10 to 20 years. So, they have problems getting internet that's outside of dial-up. And some of those areas are really hard to get cable and other things because, they're basically large ranches. So you've got, one house per 70, per 20 miles. It makes it not really cost effective to lay that much cable just to get one family.
That, and there's about 10 man-eating snakes and 20 kangaroos and 600 sheep.
Yeah, but they're Australian. They're used to everything on the continent trying to kill them.
And the spiders.
If you live there, you're used to the fact that all life is hostile to you. That hasn't been brought there by man.
Which actually would make a very good.
Watch out for
That
drop
would
bears.
actually make some very interesting dialogue in a Dalek episode.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
They're trying to kill us. I'm Australian, mate.
That's why I thought Australia would make the perfect Starro.
Watch out for the drop bears.
Anyway, moving on.
Audience Appreciation Index puts The Magician's Apprentice at an 84, which is just above the mean score of 83.3 for Series 8. Last year's premiere, for comparison, had an 82. So we really appreciate this episode.
Yeah, 84 was, I think, our high for last year, wasn't it?
Yep.
I think there were one or two 86s.
I was going to say, I think there was one or two 85s or 86s.
84
but
were the good episodes.
Yeah.
Yeah. For some reason.
Yeah. And while Great Britain may not have had a particularly groundbreaking premiere, BBC America has seen its largest Doctor Who premiere ever in the 18 to 49 demographic. Boy, that's a big demographic. The episode had 2 million overall views, with 1.1 million in the 18 to 49 bracket, making BBC America the third most watched channel by that age group during the premiere's time slot.
Okay, that surprises me.
Woo!
That does surprise me. I was expecting that American viewership would go down a little bit from last year for the same reason. It's not new or shiny. But apparently the American Doctor Who fandom is still waving the flag
growing.
pretty strongly.
I'm pretty sure a lot of them have also been paying attention to the news like we have and went, wait, all those problems with not having multi-parters are going to be fixed this year?
Now,
Go ahead, Tim.
Just a question. Is the American fandom bigger than the British fandom these days, or is it just louder?
No. No.
In numbers, it's hard. I'm actually not sure because we do have more population. I know the American fandom has been steadily growing for the past, especially the past 5 years.
Yeah.
So that's a large part of it.
Especially since BBC America took it over.
Mm-hmm.
When Doctor Who started, the number of viewers were mostly niche viewers, holdovers from the 80s and 90s when people were watching it on WHA, and a few people that had picked it up via word of mouth or VHS or DVD since. And then it spread via word of mouth or, hey, come over, you got to see this show kind of thing for people that were, downloading it off the internet and showing it to friends. And then it got into a fairly good viewership when Sci-Fi picked it up. It picked up more people. But it was still pretty much a niche market. And then BBC got it, and they did something Sci-Fi didn't do, which is market the ever-loving hell out of it.
Yeah.
And it became popular enough to be more of a public domain. I mean, it's not, as big as many American shows, but it's getting there.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that you can walk into a Barnes & Noble and see a display rack with Doctor Who merchandise
everywhere,
is something I would have never believed I would have seen 10 years ago.
There are posters for the season premiere all over New York City subways.
Yeah. Yeah, CNN reported a review on the first episode of Doctor Who. I'm like, really? CNN?
CNN is desperate for viewers, apparently.
Well, no, they're doing a lot of the stuff. They're reviewing a lot of the premiere stuff, but usually they stuck to what was going on the networks and a few cable channels like AMC. BBC America hadn't made their list before, and now it's there. And I think a lot of the pickup was the hype that came over the 50th anniversary and the new Doctor. It was still a new concept for a lot of people. And the fact that, this show is 50 years old, 51 now, 52 now, well, almost 52.
Almost 52. Got a couple of weeks yet.
Is impressive to a lot of the American people who, thought the longest running science fiction franchise had been Star Trek.
Not counting DC and Marvel Comics, of course.
No.
We're talking television.
Science fiction television franchise, yeah.
Yeah.
I would say video media franchise because people throw Star Wars in as the competing franchise to Star Trek. And people hadn't thought of Doctor Who, and now it's on people's minds. 15, 20 years ago, you mentioned Doctor Who to somebody on the street, and they're like, what's that? Now people at least know what it is.
Yeah.
Whether they like it or not is going to differ from person to person. I
think the fact that it's so heavy on social media now is a large part of it. News networks are paying attention to things like that. So, what are people talking about? They open up Facebook, they see Doctor Who, Doctor Who, Doctor Who. It's like, okay, maybe we should start reviewing that so people talk about us on Facebook.
I know somebody who knows Doctor Who. He thinks it's, he hates it, but he, respects that I like it, so,
Apparently my old man used to watch Doctor Who when it was the third Doctor, and it just didn't catch on for him for some reason. I couldn't understand why, because the third Doctor's awesome.
Yes, I love the third Doctor.
Yeah, my parents used to watch New Who. They don't anymore, but that's because they, never ever turn on their TV anymore.
Moving into news regarding... Oh, I'm sorry, you were saying something else?
I was like, seriously? This is, the best time for TV? And they're like, no. Too much to do.
At least for Doctor Who it is. But anyway.
Moving into news regarding other episodes, the BBC have revealed titles for each episode of Series 9. Finally. We already knew episodes 1 and 2 would be The Magician's Apprentice and The Witch's Familiar. The second two-parter will consist of Under the Lake and Before the Flood. From there, we have The Girl Who Died and The Woman Who Lived.
Which are not two-parters. Those are individual episodes.
Apparently.
Right. They might be related to each other because they have the same guest star, but they're supposed to be individual stories.
Right, exactly. The Zygon Invasion and the Zygon Inversion, which is a two-parter and which have dropped their X of the Y title scheme.
Thankfully, Doctor Who has enough of that as it is.
Sleep No More, Face the Raven, and wrapping up with the two-parter Heaven Sent and Hellbent.
I love the names of those final two parts.
Yeah, that sounds interesting.
I guess the theme of going to hell in the final episode is going to be a thing with the 12th Doctor.
Is it? Well, last season it was going to heaven. This season it's going to hell.
Well, they remember that whole dialogue. What are we going to do now? Go to hell.
Yep. All right.
Doctor Who magazine, Radio Times, and Blogger Who have revealed some additional information about episodes 3 and 4 from writer Toby Whithouse. Episode 4, Before the Flood, is set about 100 years before episode 3, Under the Lake, which is also where the line about wanting to kiss it to death from the Series 9 trailer comes from.
Wait. So you have episode 3, which happens in one location, and then episode 4 happens 100 years earlier?
In the same location.
Assuming that BBC did not screw up when they gave us the title order, yes.
That's freaking awesome. That is a freaking awesome concept. It's like the Ark, but backwards.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Those of you that remember William Hartnell's serial The Ark, they get on this Ark in space, do stuff for the first 2 episodes, and then they get in the TARDIS, arrive in the exact location like 100 years later and have to deal with the after effects. So this is the same thing backwards, which I think is an absolutely awesome idea. The Ark has always been one of my favorite episodes because it distinctly invokes time travel.
Or it could be like the Ark in space coupled with Revenge of the Cybermen, except without Cybermen.
Except without cheesy, low-budget Cybermen, yeah.
Apparently, one of the Tom Baker serials, they actually went back to the same beacon, only when it was first constructed. That was kind of cool. That was a Tom Baker and Leela episode, so that was kind of cool.
Before the Flood also features an Arcatinian, a species which fans may know from the Torchwood episode Greeks Bearing Gifts, or the Sarah Jane Adventures episode Invasion of the Bane.
You know, Moffat's really going through and bringing back some of the RTD era monsters. It might be a 10th anniversary thing, or it might just be that's what the writers are interested in. As a minor spoiler, in the episode we'll be reviewing later, we do have a scene that involves the Shadow Proclamation, and we see a Jadoon, which was like freaking awesome. Yes,
and an Ood.
And we saw Ood and several other things too reappear. It's just like, ooh, I like it when you pull out the old costumes again.
I like it when, because I've always said that Moffat seemed to have this mentality where he was completely ignoring everything Russell T Davies did. The only monster we'd seen on a repeat, other than the Sontarans, which were a classic monster in the first place, was an Ood in The Doctor's Wife.
And that was because they didn't have the budget for a new alien.
Yes, exactly what I was about to say. So that's really the only case where we've gotten that kind of thing happen. And the fact that he's going back to Russell T Davies' ideas is something I actually have to applaud Stephen Moffat.
As long as there's no farting Slovene.
Yeah, well, even Russell knew after the first season that the Slovene was not really meant for Doctor Who, and they got ushered over to Sarah Jane Adventures, where their more juvenile brand of humor fit better.
Yeah, if we can have the Slovene with less farting, that would probably be an improvement.
Well, I mean, it works in Sarah Jane Adventures, where your viewer is supposed to be about 8.
Yeah.
Because fart jokes when you're 8 are fucking hysterical.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll admit, to some people, fart jokes are still amusing, hence why Family Guy does pretty well.
Depends upon how it's done.
Yeah, there have been the occasional funny fart joke on things, but generally they overstay their welcome very quickly.
Yes. I do remember there was this commercial that was spread around the internet that the fart joke was actually pretty funny on.
There's also this one movie, but anyway.
This next callback is one to an 11th Doctor story, and that's that a member of the Tivolian race from the God Complex will appear, which will be Apprentice, played by comedian Paul Kaye. known to audiences as Thoros of Myr from Game of Thrones. And the episode is set in a mining...
Sorry,
the-
I hear Game
the-
of Thrones, I break into the song.
The story is set in a mining base in Scotland in 2119, although I'm not sure which of the two parts is in that year.
Okay.
That's about it for those two. For those looking for a compilation of all information, BBC Blogs does have an article on all the news that has been announced for Series 9 so far. We're not going to go in depth on that here, as this is mostly old ground, and we're running behind on the news as it is. But
That's
if you're
okay.
uncertain of
We can
any
do that.
aspects of the news we've covered, it's a great place to find it all together. It's just going over to BBC Blogs.
Okay, so to cover some brief bits of additional information for Series 9, Doctor Who Extra is back this season. If you don't know what Doctor Who Extra is, it's kind of their new version of Doctor Who Confidential, only it's done in little minor webisode-style bits. There are several short videos available on YouTube about the ideas and creation of the Magician's Apprentice. You get to hear from a couple of the people playing bit actors. You get to hear from Missy, and you get to hear a bit on the Doctor on playing the guitar.
Which was fun.
Facebook and mobile game Doctor Who Legacy has also begun to do weekly updates featuring content from Series 9, similar to how they did Series 8 last year. I say similar because it's not exact. Last year, every time they had a new episode, they had a section in their specials area marked Season 8, and they had it split up every 10 levels so that whatever level you're at, you could do the Series 8 content. This year, what they've done is having two sections marked level 50 plus or everyone else. If you have level 50 plus, you can slog through it using your own characters. If you choose everyone else, you get a preset set of characters that make it challenging but not impossible. Like the previous series, each week has a drop of a character from that episode. Usually it's a 100% chance, but occasionally it'll be rare. And other than having monsters or creatures from that particular episode, has no real bearing on the actual plot of the episode.
All right. After rumors have abounded for the past year, and after a run just long enough to edge out Amy Pond for her longest New Who run on the TARDIS, Clara Oswald actress Jenna Coleman has confirmed that she is leaving Doctor Who. The actress is confirmed to appear in episode 10, Face the Raven, alongside Rigsy, but after that, her departure date is up in the air. There's not too much else that we know about this, other than that if rumors are accurate about her replacement, that's another cast member that Moffat successfully hid out of production photos. And if so, Maisie Williams' upcoming film, The Forest of Hands and Teeth, is going to be shot between production seasons of Doctor Who.
Yeah, that was my guess too, is that Maisie Williams might be joining as the new companion. Also, the fact that if Clara is through episode 10, that means she's probably going to depart in episode 12. Unless
Probably.
she departs in 10, I can't see her departing in mid finale unless she gets killed.
Episode 10 is the last one we have photos of her being on set for, but it's very likely that she is in 12.
We've also seen her in the same film segment as Maisie Williams, so she's in the same episodes as Maisie.
Yeah, those are episodes 5 and 6. So
yeah,
okay,
that's way earlier. But if they're grooming Maisie to be a new companion, that's going to be interesting. Because I believe she still also has to do scenes for Game of Thrones, albeit I believe by this time they're few and far between.
Yep.
As she is mostly out of the main plot. But she is going to be a very busy person between doing the film, doing Doctor Who, and doing whatever scenes she needs to do for Game of Thrones.
All right. Well, moving on to Series 8 in general, the German broadcast date has been a bit of a mystery ever since delays began interfering with it last year. German broadcaster Fox has announced that it will air Series 9, dubbed in German, in 2-episode blocks, beginning the 3rd of December at 9 p.m. and every Thursday following.
Okay. German broadcaster is Fox. So we have to deal with ABC in Australia and Fox in Germany.
Yeah.
Well, I hope
Does Czechoslovakia... No, wait, there is no Czechoslovakia anymore. Anybody remember a country starting with C? Croatia. Is there the Croatia broadcasting system?
Oh.
How about the Nigeria Broadcasting Company?
Is there the Chinese?
I do find it interesting, especially with all the two-parters that they will be doing this in 2-episode blocks.
Well, they're probably trying to catch up.
Yeah.
At least the German Fox network is treating Doctor Who with more respect than the American Fox network did.
Ever would have.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Well, probably because we never actually know what they would have done.
They would have put it in the Friday night death slot. And then sent people cease and desists for putting things on Etsy.
We honestly don't know because that was 1996 when they had their shot.
Yeah.
Also, Modern Fox hates sci-fi and has killed many things.
I was referring to their actions in 2002.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, but like I'm saying, this was, a few years earlier. I do know, I actually do know what slot Fox would have put it in, because what Fox would have replaced with Doctor Who was Sliders.
You're saying in 96?
Again, you're going back to the 90s. We're talking about Modern Who here.
Oh, no, well, they've never had a shot at Modern Who, and they never will. The only time Fox would have had a chance at Doctor Who was 96, let's face it.
Mm-hmm.
The only shot we let them have at it would be 96. Because of the way they've been treating sci-fi anyways, so... And who?
Away.
Mm-hmm.
Was it still Tim? I think it was still Tim.
Yep.
It is me next. And I was hoping there was another episode because I wanted to rewatch this trailer to confirm something. But BBC America has announced a new program at 9 a.m. in the morning, watching episodes of Tom Baker serials. This is called Breakfast with Baker. Now, I believe the trailer just said 9 o'clock, although I believe I had also heard
Nope, it is 10 o'clock, 9 o'clock Central. Yeah, 10 Eastern, 9 Central. I'm
on
the one
Sundays.
No,
it said
Matt.
Sundays.
No, it started Sunday.
On Sunday.
Oh, started on Sunday. Oh.
Yes, Sunday started with 2 serials. I didn't see the first one, but the second one was The Seeds of Doom.
So
they went on Monday.
They're doing 8 episodes at a time then?
They're doing on Sundays.
Right.
They had since the following day, Monday, did Terror of the Zygons. Trying to remember what they did Tuesday. This morning's was Hand of Fear. And yeah, they're planning on doing episodes. As far as I can tell, it's 2 episodes on Sunday, 1 episode on Monday through Friday, no episode on Saturday, and then repeat.
Are they gluing it together movie style, or are they?
Yes.
They're not doing
they are.
every
They
half
are doing
hour,
it. They are doing it full movie style. Each one has a 2-hour slot. So Sunday it's 10 and noon, or 9 and 11 if you're in Central, and then 9 to 11 every, or 10 to noon, 9 to 11 every weekday. And this is absolutely beautiful, by the way, because this is the first time in a long time that American national TV has had Doctor Who.
First time since 2013, then?
Since 2013... Well, other than there was a one-shot in 2013. I'm talking regular. Because...
so you're not counting the Doctors Revisited because they were not...
No, that was not a regular thing. We're talking about regular syndicated re-release.
But they did have a single episode of Doctor Who on Oh, Pyramids of Mars was Tuesday, by the way. They did have a single-shot episode, I believe, of Pyramids of Mars, but it might have been another one that they showed in 2013 following the Doctors revisited for Fourth Doctor. And they might have done that for each Doctor, but it was a deliberately spent as a limited-term series.
Yeah.
It was the special and then a special episode. Here, this is a regular thing that they're going to be doing indefinitely. I haven't seen an end date for it. And the last time we had this was, I think, when BBC America first went on the air. And then before that, when Sci-Fi Channel first went on the air. So the fact that this is the BBC, or at least BBC America, acknowledging that there is some desire by the fan base to see these classic serials. So Breakfast with Baker is a chance to try it out and see how it does ratings-wise. So if you do happen to have it, have mornings available from 10 to noon or 9 to 11, I do suggest watching it. Especially if it gives you those crazy feelings of nostalgia for those old-time watchers. And people that are just interested, yes, tune in or DVR it and watch it later, because these are good episodes. We just ironically had done Zygons a week and a half before they aired it. And I'm hoping to keep them as on the DVR as long as I can to have a reference library for any episode I don't have on my personal collection for when we do actual reviews on those. That'll be seen because our DVR gets pretty full in the fall to spring with all the shows that come out. But this is beautiful, and hopefully if BBC sees it, we can start seeing Classic Who on a regular schedule, because that would be beautiful.
Helpful in some of those slow spots, but anyway, yep.
Okay, so also, as we announced in our last episode, the BBC has now officially announced Doctor Who Game Maker, a way to get people interested in creating games as part of the Make It Digital campaign. Game Maker has a variety of platform and puzzle game options. I personally tried this myself a couple nights ago. I'm not overly impressed on it. It's basically make a flash game style. You can make, if you're making a platformer, you can make up to a 3x3, that's measured in screen size, so 3 screens by 3 screens per level with up to 10 levels per game. But there's no way to really add a coherent plot to them. And and the other kind are just little puzzle games. There's an asteroid-style shooter or a Arkanoid-style break the bricks game. Nothing I saw that was really special or really Doctor Who specific, other than the fact that the icons and things that you're using are, the Doctor, the TARDIS, and the various Doctor Who enemies. And all of it, by the way, from this point is New Who. I didn't see any classic options yet. So, and they might be planning on adding them, but at this point it was kind of basic, and it really annoyed me because I have a touchscreen monitor on my laptop, which meant that the Flash auto-assumed that I wanted to use touchscreen controls instead of keyboard controls, and I had no way of telling it otherwise. So, just kind of massive fail in my opinion.
That's pretty much a startup fail.
Yep.
And it's going to be hard-pressed to recover from that. So, sorry, BBC, but you just don't know how to do this right.
And that kind of sucks because a lot of the
It's better than they could have done, especially for a free program. It's definitely not something people would want to go out and pay money for, but
no.
If this is marketed toward, family audience of, general people, I can, kind of see it having some appeal.
There was Doctor Who New Who in particular has had a history of Flash games, especially during the Russell T Davies era. There were a freak ton of Flash games on their website, most of which I thought were pretty nice.
This one just seems kind of generic.
Yeah, it kind of does.
And I never got a chance to play it, but, well.
Go ahead, Aaron.
Okay, continuing our ongoing coverage of Doctor Who Festival, our news this week brings us back to the land down under, where doctors and companions visit and Santorin's chunder. We can now confirm that Billy Piper, Sylvester McCoy, and Dan Starkey will be attending Doctor Who Festival Sydney. McCoy mentions that he's literally over the moon because he'll be coming by TARDIS. I suppose one does not simply walk into Mordor. Yes. Yes, I know that was New Zealand, but I couldn't resist the joke. And besides, you have to pass over New Zealand to get to Sydney anyway.
If you look on your right, there's Mordor.
Yeah.
Ooh,
Yes.
Yes, one does not simply walk into Skaro.
Apparently one does, but we'll get to that later.
Yes. Well, I've got some good news and some bad news for fans of the 12th Doctor. A quadrilogy of audiobooks, not audio dramas, mind you, has been commissioned by BBC Audio. I don't know why I'm talking like that. I'm sorry, I'll stop.
I don't know. I think we just lost anybody that pays attention to us from Texas. We're sorry, Texas. We love you.
Hey, I got family in Texas. It's all good. It has been commissioned by BBC Audio, featuring the 12th Doctor and Clara. The bad news is that these do not feature Peter Capaldi or Jenna Coleman. The first entry, The Gods of Winter by James Goss, is available for order in the BBC shop and on Amazon now. Entry 2, The House of Winter by George Mann, sees release on October 15th. The Sins of Winter by James Goss and The Memory of Winter by George Mann will be released on December 3rd and February 4th, respectively. See? No winter is coming joke anywhere in there.
So, I guess this is the modern version of books on tape, essentially.
Maybe.
So do we even know who's reading them?
We know who's reading the first two, but not the second two. The names were Claire Higgins, which is she's the one who plays Ohila, the leader of the Sisters of Karn in Night of the Doctor and the Magician's Apprentice. And then the second one is read by David Schofield.
Okay.
And the other two are not mentioned here.
Okay.
I got cousins in Houston, Galveston, Austin, and Fort Worth. So basically, my whole dad's side of the family lives in Texas. So I think I got privileges.
Texas privilege.
Biting back the Full Metal Jacket response to that.
Oh.
So moving on to our main audio provider with Big Finish. This has been a very big month for releases here. We can start with Torchwood: The Conspiracy, the first of the monthly releases in the Torchwood. We do have news coming up on Torchwood, so I don't want to dwell too long on that. But there is a contest if you want to win a digital copy of it. You do need to have a Big Finish account to win. A Big Finish account is free, and if you don't have one, I highly recommend it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Again, the account itself is free, and it's how you buy things off of Big Finish. You would want to win a copy. You want to send an email answering the following question: Jack has been reborn many times over the course of his career with Torchwood, but name a colleague to similarly return from the grave. You want to send that to comp-conspiracy@doctorwhonews.net with the subject "committed to the cause." And let me see here. It is open worldwide. It says rather than including your shipping information, this is what I was trying to see right now. You want to include the email address that you use as your Big Finish login username along with your real name, as well as, of course, the fact that you heard of the competition here from an Unearthly podcast. Other releases, we have Short Trips Etheria. written by Nick Wallace and narrated by Peter Purves. That is a story featuring the First Doctor, Vicky, and Steven. We have the Early Adventures, which are the stories of the First, Second, and Third Doctor with their newly cast actors. In this case is the Yes Men, which features Annika Wills as Polly, Fraser Hines as Jamie and the Doctor, and Elliot Chapman as Ben Jackson, and he is also a recast.
You know, I just have to say for a moment that Fraser Hines has to be somewhat stoked by the fact that he now gets to voice the Doctor. I mean, yes, it's sad that, Patrick Troughton isn't there to voice him, but that means he actually can go to conventions and go, "Hi, I'm Fraser Hines, and I've played Jamie, and I play the Doctor."
One thing I do want to briefly comment on these, because this is a discussion going on in the Big Finish listener group on Facebook, and that is that while the new actors obviously do not sound exactly like the old actors, there is a small bit of narration here to kind of help with that willful suspension of disbelief that's present both in the Early Adventures and in what we'll be discussing next, the Third Doctor Adventures. So, I mean, that, of course, is very much person to person regarding, how you feel about that. As far as I can tell, they each do as good of a job as Richard Herndahl did, if not better, so I'm fine with it. But that's worth noting. The next release is the Third Doctor Adventures Volume 1. That's the first box set featuring Tim Treloar as the Third Doctor, featuring Katie Manning as Joe Grant and Richard Franklin as Mike Yates.
At least it's not Richard Franklin doing the Third Doctor again.
Yeah, he was kind of dry as that.
He just couldn't get the accent right.
Right.
I don't think it was entirely his fault. I think they kind of cast the wrong person, and it was kind of the wrong format for that sort of story, too.
And interestingly, I think this somewhat slipped under our radar, the fact that in the main range, Terror of the Centaurans featuring Sylvester McCoy included Dan Starkey as apparently as the Centaurans.
We reported that.
Did we?
Yeah,
because I know we reported it for the new box set, but Dan Starkey appearing in
we
main
reported
range,
earlier that was when he first went to Big Finish. We reported that he was going to be in a Seventh Doctor adventure.
So Terror of the Centaurans with the Seventh Doctor and Mel was the first main range release this month, and there was actually a second main range release this month, for whatever reason, which is Crisscross with the Sixth Doctor and the first in the way that Sixth Doctor companions have firsts, appearance of Mrs. Constance Clark as the Sixth Doctor's new companion. She did previously appear in the Sixth Doctor, The Last Adventure, but this is her introduction and technically her first story.
Okay. Well, yeah, because I think this was the first that we heard Dan Starkey was doing an audio, but not as his signature character.
Yeah, I don't think we had a title at the time when we mentioned that, though, either, so...
Yeah, probably not. No, I think we had something of Sontaran, so that was probably it. Anyway, we said we were going to talk about Torchwood, and we do have a trilogy of Torchwood stories, of pieces of Torchwood news. The first one is that Big Finish has announced that they have contracted with Tracy Ann Oberbid to join the Torchwood team, or at least the audios, as Yvonne Hartman, the lady who did it all for Queen and Country. Yvonne Hartman was kind of a Sibby villain from Army of Ghosts Doomsday. She was the head of Torchwood there. And her character died there, so that means that this is probably taking place prior to this.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I believe it says her first appearance is going to be Torchwood Run 1 Rule.
Yes.
And that will be released in December. That is after Torchwood the Conspiracy and Torchwood Fall to Earth, which is going to be the next one. The next piece of news that we have is the rest of the titles for Series 1. After 1 Rule, we have Torchwood Uncanny Valley. which will be in January, and February will be Torchwood More Than This. And the final piece of news is that Big Finish has already confirmed a second series for Torchwood Audios.
Relating that previous one second, I believe, I'm trying to look at it now, I believe Uncanny Valley is a second story starring John Barrowman, and the other one is a second story starring Eve Miles.
Okay.
Oh, no, wait.
Guy Items and... Oh, wait. No, written by Guy Items. Never mind. Yeah, Eve Miles.
That's correct. Okay.
Yep. And then the final piece of news is that they have already confirmed Series 2, which will begin in March, which is right after Series 1 ends. Really, Big Finish? Why didn't you just make it one huge season? Because
they probably weren't sure how well it was going to go.
They were shocked by how overwhelmingly positive the response to the idea has been.
Well, they should have known. I mean, the people have been chomping for more Torchwood.
Torchwood.
Decent Torchwood. Because, you had the first 2 seasons of Torchwood, and then you had Children of Earth, which was meh, and then you had Miracle Day, which was blah.
You know what would be a good way to shock everybody? Once they establish that Series 1 is really good, Series 2, the premiere, narrated by the guy from Miracle Day.
Well, let's see. I mean, they have
or
to go
starring.
with...
I don't think these are narrated. They're just starring.
Well, they kind of, if they go past it, they have to take Miracle Day into account. It happened. It's part of the continuity. You can't say it's
there's
not.
a new Immortal guy that we really haven't addressed yet.
Yeah, wasn't that the answer to one of the trivia questions? So let's not bring him up.
Well, I don't. He's not really part of the Torchwood team in my eyes, so I wasn't really counting him for that.
He counts. Anyway, but either way, John Barrowman had been on record saying, yeah, I'm willing to do Torchwood Series 3, but the BBC has been hemming and hawing and saying, oh, we can't afford that. And so it never got off the ground. And then, of course, Barrowman has gone on to be an Arrow, and the rest of the cast has gone on to do other things. So it would be kind of cool. If this goes over well enough, it might actually spark the BBC to actually, commission a third season or a third series, but we'll see.
As long as they do a good job with the audios, just keep on with the audios.
Okay, let's move on, because we are at the 1 hour mark here, so...
Just about.
Trailers. The next 8th Doctor box set, Doom Coalition, sees release next month. The trailer for it has been released on Big Finish, featuring a Time Lord with multiple personalities and a cameo by the 7th Doctor. No River Song in this trailer, that's the second box. Yep. Our next trailer is for November's unit release, Extinction, the first audio to feature the new Who unit cast, including Gemma Redgrave and Ingrid Oliver. The trailer is slightly reminiscent of Spearhead from Space, which stars the main antagonist with this one, but doesn't give us much new information.
So that would be Nestine and Autons then.
Yep. Yeah. I see the nesting tentacles all over the place. So it's definitely there.
Well, we continue to get new information on the classic Doctor's New Monsters box set. This time with cast information for Sylvester McCoy's story, Harvest of the Sycorax by James Goss. The leader of the Sycorax will be played by Giles Watling. His hostages from a deep space medical facility are Cadwallader, played by Jonathan Firth, Zanzibar, played by Nisha Nair of Doctor Who, Bad Wolf, and Paradise Towers, and Chadrick, played by Rebecca Callard. The story will be directed by Barnaby Edwards.
And from there we move on to new announcements from Big Finish. The Torchwood was new announcements, but that was of an ongoing series. The first we have is the new Countermeasures. Countermeasures, of course, covers the group from Remembrance of the Daleks in their stories prior to the beginning of Unit, after that story. In this case, they will be continuing past that, and I'm pretty sure, yes, the new series will reveal the fate of the organization and how it continues into the era of Unit. It's really unfortunate that we do not have. God damn it! Why am I always forget names when I want to say them, but you know who I'm talking about.
No.
The Brigadier.
No.
Oh.
Nicholas Courtney.
Thank you. I'm like, I had Courtney somewhere in my head. Yes, it's really unfortunate we don't have Nicholas Courtney.
I used to get him and Nicholas Briggs confused, so.
Yeah. Having Nicholas Courtney for this box set for this series would have been amazing, but unfortunately that can't be done. If we're lucky, we can still get Benton or Yates involved.
Well, this is the countermeasures group. This is Group Captain Chunky Gilmore.
This is the countermeasures group continuing into the era of Unit. So now we're up to of the era of about the invasion.
I always figured the countermeasures group got subsumed into Unit, but that was just me.
That's what we would have thought, but we'll be finding out if we listen to this new series. It might be the countermeasures group might be a faction within Unit.
Maybe.
In other news, we have Jago and Lightfoot Series 11 being announced. Could have sworn we just announced Series 10, Series 9 not that long ago, but I can't keep track of these sometimes. No word of Strax, which is probably a good thing. Okay, that's what it is. Series 10 is starting release in October, and Series 11 will see its release in 2016.
In April.
So not that far apart, yeah. And is available.
Yeah, they seem to be cranking these out.
Big Finish just can't get enough of your money. Now, this next one is not announced by Big Finish yet. It is from who appears to be a fairly reliable and fairly knowledgeable source in Blogter Who. But this is not yet confirmed by Big Finish, so grain of salt there. However, it is very good news if it is true. Because
it's very big news.
Yes, because it says that David Tennant and Catherine Tate are coming back, or are coming to Big Finish in a new series, depending, of course, on their other filming commitments, as the first Doctor from the New Who era to actually physically come and record. David Tennant does have a history of working with Big Finish, so he is definitely the one that would be most likely to come back. And the Catherine Tate has also appeared in Big Finish through the Destiny of the Doctor series, where she did the 10th Doctor story, Death's Deal. So this is the pair that would be most believable. Whether that makes it for a really believable rumor or an actual true fact is something we're waiting for confirmation from Big Finish on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if this is true, this is big, because it means that the the BBC ban on Big Finish New Who audios is completely blown out of the water.
And if it is, I mean, considering the animated work she's done, I wouldn't be surprised to hear Freema Agyeman add her voice to the series. If this comes through
Billy Piper might come back.
Billy Piper is a possibility, although I don't know what her career is looking like right now. I don't even know what she's been doing lately.
She's been doing TV. And...
Oh, she's been doing Penny Dreadful, hasn't she?
Yeah. It still means that she could pop over to Wales for an audio voice.
No, yeah, absolutely.
Or wherever they're
Seasonally.
recording Big Finish. Yeah. The thing is, I'm wondering if Big Finish, or if the BBC said that was going to let them if they're at least 2 Doctors behind. So, in other words, we wouldn't see the 11th Doctor until there's a 13th Doctor. Like they're keeping the current Doctor and the previous Doctor to be topical, but the ones before that are fair game. The thing is, when Matt Smith took over, they asked Eccleston, and he said no. It would not surprise me.
Because Eccleston seems to still be afraid of his history of Doctor Who right now, yeah.
He seems to be avoiding it, yes.
It'll get him in the end. It always gets them in the end.
I think if someone walked up to him and said, I have this amazing script that'll blow your mind, he would do it, but other than that, he's not even going to look at it.
Yeah, and that's a bloody shame.
They're going to have to really save up in order to get Eccleston in. They're going to have to cook up something huge.
But if they got David Tennant and Catherine Tate, yes, because that means we can start seeing New Who audio, and that will be amazing.
That's baby steps in the proper direction, yes.
Not to mention the fact that if they do advance to being able to do Matt Smith, we can actually see Matt Smith act out of the little box that Stephen Moffat wrote him
And
into.
you know what's also very likely that would happen as well? I would not be shocked if either they start giving him new companions like they've done with the classic Doctors, or characters like Lady Christina from Planet of Death getting some audio appearances. People who,
There's
would
plenty of
put her
time,
kind of in the
especially
category with Sarah Kingdom, things like that.
especially in that post-Catherine Tate era where he was by himself.
Yeah.
But he really didn't seem to be looking to companion. I might see one-offs.
I know some of the comics are usually considered separate, but I know some of the comics have had him apparently having companions after that time. As far as I can tell, I haven't been reading the new ones, just from the previews. That's what it looks like.
Well, it's kind of debatable.
Does seem possible.
But great news if it's true. I believe that's the end of the news.
It is.
All right, so let's go on to our
Let's
go on to our 5-minute challenge. Who wants to do it? Anybody?
I'll take it.
Okay.
Bill wants to take it. Okay.
Load the stopwatch.
Stopwatch.
We are running late, so let's try to make it as concise as possible, Bill.
Stopwatch. All right.
No pressure, Bill. No pressure.
Okay.
And by the way, we will warn you before this. This summary will most likely contain spoilers if you have not seen the episode.
Yes, at this point,
Apprentice.
it is. At this point, spoilers are fair game. I think the first spoiler is about 2 minutes into the episode, and we'll be covering the entire episode.
Yes, so if you haven't seen it and you want to avoid spoilers, you might want to turn this off and watch the episode.
Yes, we'll be here on when we get back.
Anyway, ready, Bill?
I am.
Start in 3, 2, 1, go.
We open on a war scene in an unknown battlefield on an unknown world where a mixture of high and low-tech weaponry are being used. A young boy has wandered onto the battlefield lost. A soldier tries to save him from the minefield, which consists of hands with eyes that pull their targets into the ground. But because the soldier is black, the laws of fiction demand that he be the first to die. The doctor arrives, trying to discern where he is and save the boy at the same time. In order to encourage the boy, the doctor asks his name, only for his look of determination to become a look of dread when the boy says his name, Davros. We cut to a man with a segmented... Hold up. We cut to a man with a segmented face. I'm trying to... damn it. Colony Sarf... Oh, I'm sorry. I screwed something up with the script here. Colony Sarf, visiting locations from the series' history. Dorium's Maldivarium from the last time the Doctor was expecting to die, the Shadow Proclamation from the last time Davros appeared, and Karn from the episode prologue, where the Doctor is hiding and watching the exchange. In each of these locations, Colony Sarf demands to know where the Doctor is, states that Davros knows and remembers, and that the Doctor must face Davros one last time. We move on to Clara, teaching her English class and once again discussing Jane Austen. She interrupts the class once she notices a plane has frozen in the sky. Unit quickly contacts her and she arrives, discussing the situation with Kate Stewart. One of the unit advisors states that the planes aren't physically stopped, they're frozen in time. The planes are frozen because somebody wants to get their attention, and that somebody is Missy, who has hacked into Unit's time telegram and several other unit systems in order to arrange a meeting with Clara. Over the course of the meeting, Missy explains to Clara that the Doctor has left her a confession dial, a will, and Clara demands that Missy proves she cares by releasing the time-frozen planes. With help from Unit, which references the Time Monster, the Underwater Menace, and the Daemons by way of Atlantis, the two quickly work out where he is, throwing himself a party in the ancient setting of the Magician's Meditation, where Missy uses vortex manipulators to bring them. They don't look long before the Doctor arrives, riding a tank and playing a guitar. Colony Sarf arrives, following Davros' advice to use the Doctor's friends to find him. He also reveals the meaning behind his name. Colony Sarf is actually a democratic colony of snakes. The Doctor puts on a bit of bluster, but caves in when the colony produces his former sonic screwdriver, last seen in young Davros' hand. The Doctor agrees to go to Davros, and against his wishes, Clara and Missy join him. Once they are gone, the Doctor's friend from Meditation is revealed as a Dalek duplicate, who leads the Daleks to the TARDIS. The three prisoners are brought to what seems to be a hospital floating in space. The Doctor is brought to Davros, who plays clips from Genesis of the Daleks, Resurrection of the Daleks, Revelation of the Daleks, Remembrance of the Daleks, and Journey's End. Missy, meanwhile, reveals that they are on a planet which has been hidden from view to anybody who's not on the planet, and that the planet is Skaro, as a 60s-style Dalek arrives to take them prisoner. They are brought into a room where Daleks from all parts of the show's history are gathered around the TARDIS. They then disintegrate Missy, Clara, and the TARDIS while the Doctor pleads to Davros. It appears the Doctor has taken more than he can bear, and we next see him back in the scene he vacated earlier in the episode, facing down young Davros, this time with no TARDIS and with a Dalek gun in his hand.
Okay. You managed to do it, Bill, in 0, 3, 34.
Not
That's
bad.
impressive, considering you had to stop to fix the script in the middle of it.
Yeah.
Couldn't remember the name of Colony Star, if I take it?
No, because the way I wrote it in my script, I don't know if this was a copy and paste or what. It says, we cut to a man with a segmented Colony Sarf face.
All right. Anyway, so let's go to our likes and dislikes. Matt, actually, let me double check. Are you first on my list? Yes, you are, Matt. What do you like?
First.
It's because you start the call. Anyway.
Oh, something that I particularly like.
Yes,
I like bringing back all the Daleks. I mean, all of them. They're all there. They're all active. They all talk. Even the special weapons Dalek talks, and you see him light up for a change.
Yeah, I'm actually not sure I liked that. I mean, you know, in Remembrance, that Dalek never talked.
Yeah, it never talked, but obviously it had to at some point, otherwise what would be the point of it if they can't talk to it?
It's a Dalek.
I didn't say they couldn't talk to it, I just didn't know it could talk back.
Should obviously be able to talk back.
Because it's blind,
it's a special
it doesn't
weapons
have an
Dalek. It's not like it's not a savant that can do nothing but fire weapons.
Well, you never see it talk. It's obviously blind because it doesn't have an eye stalk because it's got a frickin' barrel in its place. It's got to use its the Dalek bumps to work as sensors or something.
I was gonna say, I don't think it's necessarily blind. It's got to be able to aim that thing. It's just that it's a much more tanky version of a Dalek who is already a tank.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking
but you never saw it
the
talk
gun barrel.
in Remembrance. It just, they would tell it to do something and it turned and went. So, and then you had the thing like the whole top part of it light up, and I don't think that was part of the original design.
I think it was part of the design, but they never prearranged anything to light up, I think, in the original version at least.
Although, to be fair, there's a very good chance the original Special Weapons Dalek was destroyed in Series 7, and this is a new one.
Quite possible, because it only had 2 scenes in Remembrance.
Mm-hmm.
And it only was in for 1 scene in Asylum, so... But still... That just, I don't know, it didn't seem right to me, but that was just me.
I think that's a nitpick.
How about you, Tim? What did you like?
What I liked in general was the way information was conveyed to the audience. Not just exposition, but also the science-y stuff. Like, especially the way Missy delivered her sort of like scientific explanations of how things are working in any given situation. I thought it felt very natural and not forced.
Okay.
That's just a general thing I liked.
How about you, Bill?
I'm going to go ahead and say the callbacks to past episodes. There's references to... there's references to quite a lot. There's the RTD era, the Atlantis stories, the entire 80s with the screwdriver. There's clips from, 4 or 5 previous Doctors. I think 5 of them. And it's nice to see all that recognized, especially in the season premiere, especially right around the 10th anniversary of New Who.
Yep. Yeah, I mentioned too that I was particularly fond of seeing all these RTD era stuff coming back because it might mean a change of Moffat's opinion on some of it.
It might be that he realized if he's going to call back to the 11th Doctor era, he has to call back to the 10th Doctor era as well.
Either that or somebody gave him a kick up the rear, which I kind of hope.
It seems like a lot of people are getting kind of sick and tired of him here and there and telling him
Well, yeah,
that he's doing it wrong.
He only ever made callbacks to his own episodes.
And look at what he's done to them.
And I'm really hoping that this means that eventually we'll see like return of characters like Captain Jack, who is
nice.
a very popular fan favorite and would love to see him come back.
Mm-hmm.
It's just long overdue.
All right, Aaron, what did you like?
I really kind of liked some of the costuming for like some of the alien species, particularly the divided face person. I kind of want to know more about them, but it's kind of a glimpse at some of the strange aliens that are going to be coming up. I mean, Colony Sarf wasn't. He was the only one that I kind of didn't like.
I was actually going to bring him up in things I don't like. So.
Yeah. And I totally understand that, but like there are callbacks to other, obviously reuses of other alien costumes. But I think some of the new ones were kind of what we got to see was kind of interesting.
Okay. As Bill kind of took what I liked about the episode, and so did Aaron to an extent, I'm actually going to pass on this. And let's move on to what you didn't like. Matt.
Something I didn't like. I guess I understand the Master being a little manic here and there, but she did have a few manic points where it kind of went a little too far.
Care to give an example?
Screaming at the top of her lungs after teleporting, which should be something totally old to her by now. Because she's obviously not had a TARDIS for a very, very long time.
Yeah, I think, didn't she end that up with a "we, I want to go again, mommy"?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I get a little bit of that, but it didn't need to be quite that over. That's
over the top.
It's reaching points where it's starting to go beyond even the other crazier masters.
I felt in this episode that she was kind of written as a counterpart to Matt Smith's Doctor, even though Matt Smith's Doctor is no longer on screen to work off of.
Yeah.
Aaron had told me when we were talking about the episode that she seemed a little too close to the Sims Master, her predecessor. In a few scenes.
In certain scenes, yeah.
She particularly brought up the dancing, which I actually mentioned that she had been doing to prove a point, but because, she being the master can't actually, go out and deliberately say, hey, look, gravity's normal.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
She has to do it in a roundabout. She doesn't know the meaning of straight line. She doesn't know the meaning of the term straight line.
Like the Five Doctors. It's easy as pie.
Specifically, it's the constant analogies being made, which are the same ones that the 11th Doctor would have done. Oh, it's my texting, it's my flirting, it's my this, and we get it.
Well,
You're
no,
weird.
the it's my flirting I got, because remember, she does have a little bit of that Yandari trait towards the Doctor. That was a good chunk of Series 8 where she's referring to the Doctor as her boyfriend.
Yeah.
So that's just our version of flirting. That one I bought.
And if that was the first time in the episode she said something like that, I would have bought it.
Although I did love the... do you see that couple over there with the dog? You're the dog.
That was a bit of a low blow, yeah.
All right, so Tim, what didn't you like about the episode?
The one thing I didn't like, I'm not sure if I should even say because it might get resolved in the next episode,
Go ahead, tell me.
is that, do we really need to, even cement further the idea that the Doctor is responsible for the creation of the Daleks? Because that's what this episode seems to be implying, is that because he abandoned Davros as a child,
he survived and went on to create the Daleks. Yeah.
yeah, because, I think that idea was already well established with the genesis of the Daleks thing.
Yeah, you don't need to heap that extra bit of guilt on it. Let's just take it back a bit further.
Part of me feels that way. Part of me likes the idea that there's kind of duality here, because in pretty much every scene that we've gotten so far, it's hard to tell. Are they saying that the Doctor's problem is that he saved Davros and shouldn't, or that he didn't save Davros and that caused Davros to become evil? Because there's just enough of it kept off screen at any given moment that you can't really tell how the scene is going to finish.
Well, yeah, that's why I said I wasn't sure whether or not I should even mention this. Because...
But at the same time, the Davros is just constantly hammering into the Doctor. It's your fault. It's your fault. It's your fault.
Yeah, I can't help but see that as a wasted opportunity. What does the Doctor do to his companions? He takes them on board and he makes them better. Could you imagine what would have happened if he had taken that scared little boy, shown him the universe?
One of two things would have happened. He either would have... Well, actually, no. One thing would have happened because we've kind of shown that trying to rewrite your own history doesn't work.
Yeah, that's what we're seeing at the very end of the episode, where he's basically looking like he's trying to kill Davros, so Davros won't be there to kill his kids. Isn't that like a primary violation to the law of time?
Yes, but we know it's not going to work. And if that's what he does, which I'm thinking it might be different, but either way, I think if he took Davros aboard the TARDIS specifically to stop him from making the Daleks, what would happen is now we would have an even smarter evil Davros.
Although isn't that kind of like
even more?
Isn't that kind of like every time you touch this Doctor, it turns to shit, making him the doctorized version of Uwe Boll in a way?
It's kind of like that whole, no matter what you do when you go back in time, the Nazis win. That trope. Actually, almost literally, because if anyone is Hitler in Doctor Who, it's Davros.
Pretty much.
Heil Davros!
Speaking of Davros, by the way, really quick mention. They brought back the new Who Davros again for
Julian Bleach, yes.
They did, yes. But you know whose name I did not see in the credits? Nicholas Briggs.
I'd have to look again. I wanted to make sure that was Julian.
I didn't see it either, but I also saw that...
I saw the word Dalek voices and two names that were not him, so unless his name was in a separate section and I missed it, he was
not hiding it.
These credits.
Or he might have not been in this because he's voicing the Dalek Emperor. Or the Dalek... Whatever the big red Dalek is.
Right, the Supreme?
Yeah.
Oops. And I just, as I'm searching for the credits, I typed the Magician's Emperor because you said Emperor.
Sorry, I forgot that he was called the Supreme Dalek. Anyway, Bill, so what didn't you like?
The Misty thing was stolen from mine. Beyond that, I feel like I had a backup too. Give me just a sec. I think if this counts more as a scene or as a general.
Does it affect the entire story?
I'll do this because it is a bit more than a scene. It's the fact that there are so many different flavors of Dalek working together when normally they would be exterminating each other. This may be resolved in the next episode, but for now, it's really awkward to see these outdated models of Daleks working alongside,
Not
the brand new
necessarily.
versions.
Not while Davros is in play, because remember, Davros has taken Daleks that's not liked him before and gone, you work for me now.
True, but I mean, we have black Daleks, white Daleks, and Time War Daleks.
And Davros doesn't
And
care.
gray
He just
Daleks,
pops
so-
into time and grabs one and leaves. So he has every make and model wherever he wants to grab them from.
The black one might be a Time War Dalek, so that might be acceptable. Even still, it's really awkward visually as well. I just hope there's some sort of
Not as awkward as the
explanation
frickin' Sentai Daleks, which would have looked like Dalek Skittles in this.
the thing with them though is they all were the same model of Dalek working together, and they still had that whole the best Dalek must survive thing. Whereas here, there's Daleks that are it seems too disorganized for a Dalek squad. I don't know, for any sort of Dalek organization. You'd feel that they would want it to be much more organized, less milling about the room, less different flavors.
There might also be a truce because Davros is apparently dying.
True.
It also might be because they're recruiting older members or maybe just recycling older units.
I don't know.
We don't know
but
for sure.
Just quiet and taste the Dalek rainbow, Bill.
If they
Enjoy
explain
the
why they're
rainbow of
just milling
coppery,
about in a
silvery
room-
goodness.
Well, actually, I guess they're milling about in a room for the sake of the trap, but it's still.
Yeah, well, I think we
That's
need to
the other
see
thing,
more.
too. They got their hands on the TARDIS. How often do the Daleks actually get their hands on the TARDIS and have a plan?
They got their hands on the TARDIS and apparently blew it up.
Yes, exactly. They had a plan. They finally had a plan. They could deal with it. And they did it.
Yeah, actually, I was kind of shocked when the Supreme said exterminate, and they exterminated.
Yeah, and the fact that, here's Missy saying, I'll hand it to you with, a side of chips, and they go, no.
Nah.
Especially since, and I
Blow
mean,
her
I don't
up.
think,
Yeah.
I don't know if she's dealt with Time War Daleks yet because she ran away from the Time War. But, I mean, as we know in Journey's End, these Daleks know exactly what to do with the TARDIS.
Yeah. So, how about you, Aaron? What didn't you like?
I felt some of the talky bits kind of dragged down a little bit. I also, the whole tank scene was awesome and everything. I mean, obviously, it's reminded me of Mad Max, that's for sure.
A little bit. A touch.
Yeah. And it was cool, but there were some bits like when Missy takes a bow and everything that felt like it was dragged on. It felt like they were kind of patting themselves on the back, like, congratulations, you got another season going, or you're back and everything, and you're Missy, everyone loves you.
A tank
Nah,
for my
I didn't really
goldfish.
feel that way, because for me, it was the Doctor was throwing a party and everyone was invited.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The bringing the tank in, that was bringing a tank to an axe fight, and I thought that was freaking cool.
A tank for my
it was,
goldfish.
It was after that, when Colony Sarf shows up, that I felt the episode slowed down a bit.
Yeah.
I also felt it kind of slowed down when they were in the cafe, when Missy is sitting there zapping people. If you notice, the background music is still playing. It's still trying to hammer home some kind of intense energy, but it goes on for so long. It's just kind of...
Well, that's also when people started dying, so that was kind of the most intense part of the scene.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but it was, I don't know, it just sounded kind of goofy in the background while I'm trying to listen to Missy and Clara talk, and there's this music that's trying to ramp itself up through the scene, and it's just kind of pausing, taking these long pauses to go through. I don't know, it just kind of dragged on for me.
Apparently Marigold's not hitting the right notes for you again.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've had issues with Murray Gold since Series 8. I didn't feel like the Series 8 soundtrack was up to his normal scratch. I'm wondering if he's really burning out on doing Doctor Who.
Gotta kind of wonder at this point, yeah.
So the thing that I didn't like was Colony Sarf. It really seems like anything hired by Davros would not be a colony of snakes. And since when has Davros gone to hiring mercenaries? I know the Daleks did in Resurrection, but that was because they were weak from the plague and couldn't do it themselves.
I can kind of see in the sense that Davros would normally send a Dalek, and if Davros sent a Dalek, the Doctor wouldn't come.
Yeah,
But
that's what I was just kind of going to
why
mention
wouldn't he
too.
send one of these drone things that there's apparently 30 billion of? Why send something as fucked up as Colony Sarf?
True.
Because it's still way out there and it would be less suspicious to the Doctor.
Although that said, I'm kind of hoping he has some sort of Mara relationship.
That's what I thought. As if he was
snakes with
if he was like a high priest of the cult of the Mara, I would have been like, that's fucking awesome. Literally, the entire concept, I would have been, that's fucking awesome. But as he is just some kind of mercenary that everybody knows is hired by Davros. It's just kind of a concept. The way he dressed and moved, it was like Stephen Moffat was going, we want to make Voldemort without it being Voldemort.
I want to make a Wicked Witch of the West, but make it a dude.
Because that same device that they used to make him glide was the same one they used for Voldemort. So it's like...
I do think if he hadn't been put in his place quite so easily, he might have been a more impressive and more useful character. But literally, I think in his second scene, he's already being told off, and in his third scene, he's being treated like, the whipping boy.
Then again, look at who he's facing in those scenes. The first one, he's against the high leader of the Shadow Proclamation.
Yeah.
And she's looking at him. She's not exactly sure that she would win, but she's facing him on even ground.
But at the same
she's
time,
not intimidated. The next thing
Davros would have completely dominated that situation, and you would think that someone he trusts to go and get the Doctor for him would also be equally in control.
And then the next person that he's facing is the Sisterhood of Karn.
Mm-hmm.
They threatened to skin him, and I totally trust them to do it.
Yes. He has no chance.
Right. I mean, but that's another one. Davros sitting there would have heard their threats and chuckled, and just continued speaking.
They still would have threatened.
True,
Davros by himself against the Sisterhood of Karn would be dead.
Yeah.
Davros with an army of Daleks behind him would be a threat.
True, but even if it was just him, he would still have that sort of presence in the scene that Colony Sarf just kind of lacks. You don't you get the idea that he's used to bullying people around, but he's not a powerful enough figure to attract Davros' attention. If you read off of those scenes.
Yeah, I'm looking at this going, why is Davros hiring this guy? It's a non sequitur. I don't get it. I liked it if he was in fact a high priest of the cult of Amara, because that would have actually been.
That would have been in reference for other villains too.
That would have been in reference for other villains, and that would have meant he had the mental domination of the Mara behind him, and that would have made him more intimidating.
Right.
But as he is now, no, he's kind of just a wuss. He's a pointless that could have been filled by another character that would have had more personality and more interest.
But by the way, it's been a while since I've watched Morbius. Was the Sisterhood of Karn this powerful before the war?
No, but at that point, the Sisterhood of Karn was at a low during Brain of Morbius.
Right.
Yeah.
Because they were worshipping Morbius.
No, they weren't worshipping Morbius. They were still worshipping the Flame. The problem was the Flame at that point was nearly dead. So they didn't have a lot of power. The Doctor helped bring the Flame back to life. The fissure the plane was coming from was getting clogged with soot. But,
Thanks to the Doctor, things get fixed, and they're back where they should be.
Yes.
Although it is very odd with all of the, Last of the Time Lords thing, and then a few seasons later he's just showing up on Karn, and I'm like, aren't they technically Time Lords? Technically?
Not
They're
canonically.
They're estranged, but I thought they were still considered to be Time
Not
Lords.
canonically. Not canonically. There is no reference in Brain of Morbius to them being Time Lords or exiled Time Lords. They are the most the Fourth Doctor says is that they're in the same neighborhood. In other words, Karn is somewhere close to Gallifrey.
I thought the idea was that they were a cult exiled from Gallifrey.
No.
They never said
That's what
that
I
in
thought.
the episode.
Never.
I
Okay,
thought
that's what I
they
thought,
did
too.
say that in the episode, honestly.
No.
But
No,
I deny
no,
you.
that came up in like novelizations and stuff that involved them later.
Yeah, that's goofy extra stuff that doesn't necessarily mean it's continuity. All we know for sure, I think also the only other for sure thing they mentioned during their actual presence physically on the show was that they were somehow linked with the Time Lord's ability to regenerate.
yeah, I'm like I'm like a Night of the Doctor kind of hammered
Night of
that
the Doctor
as well,
hammered that at home, yeah.
They mentioned that Time Lord technology is at a higher level there.
Mm-hmm. But, and that might be playing off the novels. There was nothing canonical, though, to say that they were actual Time Lords.
Yeah.
I watched The Brain of Morbius. I pieced through the original novelization, and there is nothing in there that said it.
I've seen Brain of Morbius only once, and I know better.
While we're slightly tangential, I do just want to mention to correct what I said before. There were two other people credited as Daleks, but apparently they were operators, because earlier on in the credits it does show voice of the Daleks, Nicholas Briggs.
Yes, Dalek operators are the guys inside the things.
It doesn't say operators, it just says Daleks, which is why I thought it was the voices.
No.
But earlier
it means
on
physical.
it does say voice of the Daleks, Nicholas Briggs, and I had missed it when I was watching.
Okay. All right. So, scene that you liked, Matt.
Oh, so many good ones. I think the first one I would probably be picked by somebody else very easily. So
Me too.
I'm just gonna go with, I'm pretty sure that seeing that classic Dalek come over the ridge, capture the Master and the Companion, and then take them into a room full of other classic and more modern Daleks is just gonna be a moment that's gonna be harder to outlive now for a while for Daleks.
The only thing is that scene when that Grey Dalek first shows up, I'm not sure if it's the green screen or if it's a CGI Dalek. It just seems a little off to me.
I think it's CGI, but that's because it's come over a really rough ridge. There's no way they're going to be able to get a normal Dalek to do that.
I can't say that for certain. I had issues with the entire special effects of this episode because apparently it was shot in like high frame rate or something. And when it was played back on my TV, it had this unreal, almost like high school production look. I've had this problem before. When I first saw the movie Thor, I had a friend of mine bring a Blu-ray in that we watched in the TV in the old club room in the apartment I lived in. And because something wasn't set right, the entire movie felt off. It felt like I was watching a high school play production. And I got the same feeling from this, so I think something was not set right.
Still, as far as I'm concerned, from that Dalek just suddenly coming over the ridge to having a whole room full of them, I think that's going to be a hard to live down particular segment for a little while.
Okay,
but we'll
Tim.
see what they do in the next episode, though, too.
Tim, your favorite scene?
Oh, one of my favorite scenes was scene where the Doctor tried his hand at stand-up comedy, and he kept telling jokes that were literally ahead of their time. Because that spoke to me, because I've done stand-up before, and I felt like getting cold responses, and I always like to think, I'm just ahead of my time, I'm going to be huge with your grandchildren.
I really thought you were going to go with the guitar scene.
That is part of the same scene.
I was going to go with the guitar scene, but I thought someone else might want that.
Because that's all part of the same scene.
Yeah,
Well,
it's
it's
the guitar's
much
early
further
in
into the scene, though, is what he's saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know,
All
like
right.
yeah.
All
Anyway.
right, Bill, your favorite thing.
I have a feeling I'm taking Rand's or somebody's, but I'm going to go with the montage starting with the appearance with the Maldivarium and ending on Karn.
Actually, I wouldn't have chosen that because it all involved Sarv, which
Oh
kind of...
yeah, I mean there's some, but especially the visuals of that whole sequence, it's just I loved it.
Every
All right,
throwback.
Aaron?
Favorite scene? I'm gonna say the cantina scene. Mostly just because the bar scene was just so, I don't know, it felt kind of unfamiliar. It, like, the whole beginning of the episode felt a lot like, almost like Doctor Who meets Star Wars. There's a real kind of expansive, this is the galaxy type feel, or elsewhere in the galaxy, or this is just, it's just the tip of the iceberg and everything. It felt really kind of cool. So, and I really like that one scene. Kind of emphasized the whole nature of space travel, and
it helps that that's the one scene in which Colony Sarf is really intimidating.
Yeah, that's pretty much the one scene. Yeah.
All right. So for my favorite scene, I'm going to go for the wham moment at the very beginning, where it's what is your name? Say your name. And he goes Davros, and it's just
and just watching as the camera and the Doctor react.
Yes,
I did not see that coming.
I did, but I thought they were going to hint at it and go another direction.
Mm-hmm.
I thought they were going to tease you that it was Davros and go someplace else. I thought Moffat was trolling us, and when he played it straight, I actually went, bro. I think I actually went, holy shit.
You and I had just been talking about, like, well, I'm pretty sure we would have heard of Julian Bleach being cast, and you're like, unless they kept it a secret.
Kudos for Moffat for playing, dangling Missy in our faces so that he could bring in Julian Bleach under the wire.
Yeah, that might be why Michelle Gomez has been everywhere the past few months.
Hi, I'm disturbing you. Hi.
Look at that. Pay no attention to the man in the wheelchair behind the window.
Hi, I'm in front of the camera. I'm chewing on an apple. Look at me. Am I doing this right, Muffet? Yeah, keep going.
So, scene you didn't like. Matt.
Oh. I'm trying to think of one that I really didn't care for. I guess the fact that Blandy McLineface shows up in the middle of nowhere and just kind of ruins a party.
He is kind of a buzzkill.
He is a buzzkill, and he's also bland as a cardboard box.
We have now rebranded Colony Sarf as Buzz Killington.
Every party needs a pooper, and we invited you. Party pooper.
All right, Tim, your least favorite scene.
My least favorite scene is the scene where they first meet with Missy, and it's the part where Clara says, "There's good in you," and Missy says, "Oh yeah, would a good person do this? Pow, pow, I just killed that man who had a family." That scene just didn't really do anything for me.
I actually felt the opposite on that particular bit of it. Because she's like, so you've turned good, and that's almost, she's like, no, I'm not good. See, I'm not good.
No, yeah, no, she's like, so I'm supposed to believe you turned good, and Missy gets pissed. And she's like, okay, now I've got to kill somebody.
And this is the person, this is in a previous regeneration, this is a person where a list of his crimes is brought up as he's standing before the Time Lord Council, and he's grinning. And when they said, and we're pleased to offer you a full pardon, and he gets upset.
Yeah.
This is somebody
who... 5 Doctors, I'm assuming?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
This is somebody who is evil and enjoys it. He's almost like the movie version of Dr. Smith in that aspect. He is unrepentantly evil. Or she.
I'm evil, I don't care. Evil is fun. Zap. Oh, look, I killed a family man.
But by the way,
Oops.
Gary Oldman as the Master would be pretty impressive too.
By the way, as I'm watching that scene, I'm kind of like, now imagine, a few hours later, a family gets off their plane, they're walking through, and a little girl's like, "Mommy, why are these little dolls of people here?"
That I would have preferred it better
Oh.
if the TCE had been used.
Yeah.
I always liked
Yeah.
the TCE. It was twisted and sadistic enough to be perfectly Master. And the fact that they haven't used it in New Who is a damn shame.
Mm-hmm.
To have these grotesquely deformed little dolls lying on the ground whenever she does that, I thought that would be freaking awesome.
Not to mention give children nightmares all
Oh,
over
yeah.
again.
Oh yeah.
It would
Well, the dolls don't.
certainly take care of some of the issues I had with Missy on this. She's a little too lighthearted, I feel.
At times.
Too, yeah.
Okay,
Little
your
too
least
kid-
favorite theme, Bill. Sorry, I am trying to rush us on because
I've been
we've got
trying to come up
15
with
minutes
something
left.
else, and I'm sorry, Matt, but I have to go with that scene of the Dalek because it completely takes me out of the scene just looking at that effect.
For whatever that scene reason,
When-
that's
when-
just that
when-
little bit
when-
where it comes over
when-
the ridge.
Yeah, when that 60s Dalek shows up on Starro, and you're looking at it and you're
I'm
like,
sorry, I
that
squeed.
has to be animated.
I know that's not everyone's reaction, but I squeed at that, so
I mean,
to each their
like,
own.
on one hand, like, there was one thing seeing it, but the disconnect of the effect hits me more in that particular moment.
I will say
That's why
that
has
it
to stand
obviously
out as
didn't
my
look quite
least-
right. It looked way too shiny, but
Right.
beyond that, just seeing
And
a
it's-
classic Dalek
Did they
run over and say, exterminate.
on that side, quick related, did the special effects seemed a little below normal in this episode? Like
That's
the
the only
like the
moment
hospital
where I
in
had any
space.
issue.
This hospital in space look fake to anyone else?
Yeah, it did look kind of fakeish. It looked like a matte painting, actually. But it wasn't, like, properly worked into the background or anything. It still had kind of its edges, the edges stood out pretty...
It reminded me of a model. It honestly did.
Actually,
I
Only
kind
maybe
of thought it was supposed to.
It looked almost like they were trying to herald back to classic Who Day models, and it was like, I thought we had grown beyond this, people.
I think it may have, they may have been trying to do that on purpose to reveal that, it's a cloked area. Maybe that's what they're trying to head at.
Maybe, but that's not
thing.
guaranteed. So it still leaves you kind of being iffy.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that was deliberate or not. If it was not deliberate, then it's an obvious fall in special effects. If they were doing it just to be particularly cheesy for those scenes, I can see it a little bit. But if it keeps up, we may have already seen their special effect budget go through the floor. But I'll hold judgment on that.
Yeah.
Aaron, your least favorite scene?
My least favorite scene would probably be parts of them sitting in the cafe area. There's just that one part where, like I said, the music keeps ramping up and it's supposed to be intense and everything, and I just got annoyed because the music was just going on and on and on and on in the background, and I'm trying to listen to Missy and Clara try to, have this duel with words and everything, and I keep getting distracted by this, erratic chords that keep playing and everything.
See, I hardly ever noticed the music in that part, so it didn't bother me at all. So
Yeah,
maybe it's
I
just
don't
a
know
you
if it
thing. You
was
just
just
happened to notice it
weird.
and it kept bugging you.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't remember having that issue myself. In either of the times I watched it. I think you mentioned you only saw this once. It would be interesting to see if you still have that problem on the rewatch, and if so, you can push it. You can point it out to me.
Yeah, I intended to watch it a second time, but I just did not have time to.
Aaron's time has been horrifically tight recently.
I actually did just finish editing the Lounge Leads podcast, the season 4 premiere of it.
Yeah, but that also meant that you spent all your free time just trying to get that sucker done.
Yeah.
All right.
So
My least favorite scene is pretty much the war up to that wham point. Because if I remember Genesis the Daleks, we had seen remnants of the Skaro War before. And there was no sign of anything being radioactive as there should have been.
It kind of depends on when and where this is set. And there's still questions of, how many times Scaro's supposedly been destroyed, and is it rebuilt, or is it before that, or is it, another planet that they took over and renamed Scaro and decimated it?
there's also the fact
So
that this
any
is
minor
well before
inconsistencies
Davros
in
made the
light of all
Daleks,
that don't
so
bother me.
Well, the thing is that the explanation was, of course, that they'd had this huge, dirty nuclear war, and that technology had been devolving since then. So the whole idea of biplanes with lasers, I think.
Oh,
was
you're talking
part
about in the opening scene.
Yes.
I mean, so in that case, we're looking at it something like 40 to 50 years before Genesis of the Daleks. And in that, I don't really think it looks. I mean, the hand mines do feel like too high technology compared to everything else they have.
So did the biplanes with lasers.
But at the same time, this is like decades before Genesis, so
Even so, they were supposed to have had hundreds of years of war devolution.
True, and yet the Khalids had enough technology left around the city to start building the first 4 Daleks.
Yes.
50 years later.
Although they had to scrimp for those. There are still some manufacturing facilities all underground. The thing is, if you remember by that point, they were having problems finding ammunition. They were having problems finding any form of spare parts, not to mention food and everything for their surviving members. Here you watch a biplane, which was apparently a Thal biplane with lasers, and him holding up as a defensive measure a bow and arrow.
Yeah, maybe the Thals were having a really good year.
or that was just like their last couple of biplanes with that kind of weaponry, and as soon as that gets taken out by something, it'll dead.
Also, the technology also seemed way too Earth.
A bit. But then again, we also had guys
I
running
can
around in
get that,
gas
but
masks in the original as well.
these-
So.
Yeah, I would have
I
actually
mean,
loved to have seen the gas masks return. But
Khalids and Thals are known for being very Earth in a lot of ways, so I can get around that.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was the biplane with lasers that just bothered the crap out of
Not to
me.
mention the Khalids were extremely Nazi at some point, so.
Yeah, which, you know... with
Which
that
explains
same-
the biplanes perfectly, as far as I'm concerned.
That
True.
was the Thal. The Thals had the biplane.
Still.
True, but we used biplanes against the Nazis as well.
Mhm.
Apparently the black soldier was a Khalid, the one that bit it.
Apparently.
Yeah.
That did make me raise an eyebrow because I thought the Khalids were pretty much very Nazi-like into racial purity. But
Yeah, I was having that conversation with somebody on Facebook, and the best we could figure is that this is probably in a different region, which would explain why the accents are different from Genesis, as well as having our first black Khalid.
I don't know. That was just mind going. Anyway, final thoughts. We need to hurry.
Yeah. Well, actually, we can't do final thoughts.
We can do final thoughts on the episode. We can't do ratings.
True, I guess. So to me then, in general, I like this for the most part. There's maybe a few little nitpicks here or there, but outside of Blandy McParty fail, I don't really have too many problems or issues with this for the most part. I think it's a pretty good setup. Now we just need to see how the execution goes.
Okay. Tim?
This episode got off to a fantastic start for me. It maintained its momentum throughout. It was well written and clever, and I'm looking forward to next episode.
Bill?
Definitely mostly positives at this point. There are a few minor things that bother me, but nothing that really damages the episode much. There's, of course, a whole lot of question that's up in the air as to what's going to happen next time. And for once, this seems to be a Moffat two-parter that's not going to start in a completely different place in episode 2 compared to where it ended in episode 1. So it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out.
We'll see
but I
about
am
that.
liking the episode so far.
Aaron, your final thoughts?
I really enjoyed it. I thought it had a great, space opera opening to it, and even though parts of it dragged, it feels like it's building up to something great.
All right. My final thoughts is I haven't actually seen an episode before that simultaneously excites and angers me. There are so much in here that I'm sitting here going, yeah, Shadow Proclamation. The Doctor's Party, I was grinning through all of it, but the where he's leading with the whole creating the Daleks beforehand kind of makes me a little angry, and seeing him go back to try to exterminate Davros makes me very angry. I'm hoping that's not what happens.
I'm kind of wondering if he's actually doing something else in that scene.
Yeah,
we'll have to wait and see.
There is the theory that he's going back to exterminate the hand mines because of the fact that, being more compassionate might make Davros less evil.
At the same time, that does in a way smack a little bit of a Christmas Carol, but we'll see.
We'll see how this executes.
Yeah, I do want to see how this comes out.
And then there's also that clip we just saw where the gun doesn't work if it's the same gun. If it's not the same gun, it doesn't matter. But if it's the same gun, he just brought a fake gun back to wave in his face.
Yeah, we'll see how it comes out. And I think that's all we have to say about this episode.
Actually, one little quick add-in. The Doctor's Party. Dudes, you do realize what he's doing there, right? He's referencing Bill and Ted.
No, that had actually slipped my mind.
Dude!
That's actually kind of awesome. That makes me enjoy the party even more. All right. I think on that bombshell, we will see you next week. Go ahead and take us out, Bill.
We'll see you next week in our same time, same place. So please, subscribe to us on Twitch at .tv/Unearthly Podcast, so you don't miss us talking about The Witch is Familiar. You can also like our podcast and subscribe on YouTube at an Unearthly Podcast, and of course at mixcloud.com/n_unearthly_podcast. You can also like and subscribe for updates on Facebook and Twitter. But most importantly, don't forget to join us next week as we continue and see what the rest of this episode is going to be like.
See you then, dudes.
Dude.
Really well. Excellent.
That was a Dalek duplicate saying dude. Whoever thought we'd see that?
Oh, and